The cabin pressure doesn't drop, but the air in the Gulf Stream G650ER suddenly feels thin enough to kill. At 41,000 feet, Chairman Park sits behind a desk of polished obsidian, his fingers tracing the rim of a crystal flute. Across from him, his brother Jun-ho adjusts a cufflink with the surgical precision of a man preparing for an incision. I am standing 4 inches behind the chairman's left shoulder, my face a mask of porcelain subservience, while my mind, the ledger, calculates the room. The chairman's pulse is visible in the carotid artery of his neck. 92 beats per minute. High. He is afraid. Jun-ho's breathing is rhythmic, shallow, centered. 14 breaths per minute. Total composure. I lean in, the silk of my uniform whispering against the silence, and pour the 2004 Krug. As the bubbles hiss, I lean close to the chairman's ear. Close enough to smell the expensive tobacco and the scent of dying power, and 7 words that turn the cabin into a coffin. The captain is not flying to Seoul. Welcome to the story. Sit down. Get comfortable, but don't get relaxed. You're about to enter a world where a smile is a tactical feint and a glass of champagne is a death warrant. This isn't just a story about the Mafia, it's a study of what happens when the floor drops out from under the powerful. We're going up to 40,000 feet, and I promise you, by the time we land, the world will look very different. Let's begin. The Sky Kingdom is a masterpiece of sensory deception. To a casual observer, the interior of the Aurealis is the pinnacle of luxury. Hand-stitched Loro Piana leather, bulkheads veneered in rare Macassar ebony, and a lighting system designed to mimic a permanent golden sunset. But I don't see luxury. I see the architecture of a cage. My name is Mina. To the men in this room, I am a high-end appliance. I am the girl who ensures the towels are at 45 degrees Celsius and the beluga caviar is served with a mother-of-pearl spoon because metal would bruise the flavor. They are wrong. I am the ledger. Every blink, every twitch of a finger, every micro-expression is a data point I file away in a mental vault that never forgets. Tonight, the data is screaming. Chairman Park is 72 years old. He built the Shinhei Syndicate on a foundation of concrete and bone, but today his empire is digital and he is losing the password. He sits in the throne chair, a custom-built recliner at the front of the cabin. His hand, liver-spotted and trembling slightly, grips the armrest. I note the pressure of his thumb, white-knuckled. He is projecting authority, but his body is testifying to his frailty. Mina, he rasps. His voice sounds like dry leaves skittering over a grave. The temperature, it's too high. It is exactly 21 degrees, Chairman, I reply, my voice a melodic neutral. As per your standing order. He looks at me, his eyes clouded with cataracts and suspicion. Change it. It feels like a furnace. I move to the climate control panel, but my eyes remain on the reflection in the polished wood. Behind him, his younger brother Jun-ho is scrolling through a tablet. Jun-ho is the new world. He went to Wharton. He understands shell companies and algorithmic trading. He doesn't wear a pinky ring. He wears a Patek Philippe that costs more than a house in Gangnam. Jun-ho looks up, catching my gaze in the reflection. He doesn't smile. A smile is a giveaway. He simply nods, a gesture of feigned respect to the chairman's furniture. The ledger records. Jun-ho's pupils are dilated despite the bright cabin lights. Adrenaline. He is waiting for something. The door to the galley swings open, and the silence is shattered by the frantic clatter of copper pans. Chef Sonny bursts out, his white coat stained with something vibrant and green. Sonny is a man who exists in a permanent state of culinary emergency. To him, the fact that we are flying over the East China Sea with 4 of the world's most dangerous people is irrelevant. The real tragedy is the altitude. "Mina, the foam!" Sonny hisses, ignoring the chairman entirely. He holds up a small porcelain bowl. The emulsion is collapsing. At this altitude, the molecular structure of the yuzu soy air is unstable. It's an insult. How can I serve a masterpiece that looks like dish soap? "Lower your voice, Sonny," I say softly, stepping into his path to block him from the chairman's line of sight. "I will not lower my voice for physics," Sonny whispers, though his eyes dart nervously toward Elias, the chairman's new assistant, who is sitting in the back of the cabin with a laptop. Sonny leans in closer. "Is he looking? The critic?" "Elias, I saw him taking notes. He didn't even look at the amuse-bouche. He just typed. He's a scout for the Michelin Guide, isn't he? They sent him to test me in the air." "Elias is an executive aide, Sonny. Go back to your phones." "Aide? He has the eyes of a man who hates cilantro. I can smell a reviewer from a mile away." Sonny retreats, muttering about barometric pressure and the cowardice of stable liquids. I turn back to the cabin. Elias, the ghost, hasn't moved. He was hired 3 weeks ago. The chairman told the inner circle he was a logistics expert, brought in to streamline the merger with Madame Simone's French African syndicate. But the ledger knows better. Elias doesn't walk like a corporate suit. He walks with a centered gravity, his weight always on the balls of his feet. He doesn't look at the spreadsheets on his screen. He looks at the shadows they cast. He is an investigator. A bloodhound in a slim-fit suit. The chairman's intercom chimes. It's Captain Tae-hee from the cockpit. Tae-hee has flown the chairman for 2 decades. He is a man of few words and 0 visible emotion. "Chairman, we are encountering a slight headwind. Adjusting flight path to maintain ETA. Please remain seated." I catch it. A tiny, almost imperceptible shift in Junho's posture. He relaxes his shoulders by exactly 2 centimeters. The ledger registers the correlation. The captain speaks, and the usurper finds peace. I move to the back of the plane to refresh Elias's water. As I pour, I lean in, my back to the rest of the cabin. "The captain's cadence was off," I whisper, so low it's barely a breath. "He used the word maintain twice. That's a signal." Elias doesn't look up from his laptop. His fingers continue to tap the keys, but his voice is a cold needle. I know. He's not adjusting for wind. He's adjusting for an intercept. "The brother?" I ask. "The brother is the face," Elias says. "But look at the chairman's hands, Mina. Tell me what the ledger says." I look. Chairman Park is rubbing his left wrist, specifically the spot where a scar hides under his watch. A souvenir from a botched hit 30 years ago. He only touches it when he's about to kill someone he once loved. The chairman isn't the victim yet. He's the hunter. "He's going to purge the plane," I whisper. "Not if the plane purges him first," Elias replies. Suddenly, the floor tilts. Not the gentle roll of a course correction, but a sharp, aggressive bank to the left. In the galley, a stack of Sonny's artisanal plates shatters with a sound like a gunshot. The chairman looks toward the cockpit door, his eyes narrowing. Junho doesn't look up from his tablet. He just grips the edge of the obsidian table. "Captain," the chairman barks into the intercom. No answer. Only the hum of the engines and the distant, frantic cursing of Chef Sunny as he mourns his porcelain. I stand in the center of the aisle, the perfect hostess, my feet automatically compensating for the angle of the floor. I look at Junho. I look at the chairman. I look at the locked cockpit door. The gilded cage has just become a diving bell, and we are all going down. The tilt of the aircraft isn't a mistake. It is a statement. In the cabin of the Aurealis, gravity has become a partisan player. Chairman Park's crystal flute slides across the obsidian table, leaving a wet trail of 2004 Krug like a slug's path before tumbling onto the silk carpet. It doesn't break. The carpet is too thick, too expensive, a cushioned silence that masks the violence of the moment. "Captain!" the chairman roars again, his voice cracking like dry parchment. He stabs the intercom button with a trembling finger. "Tae-hee, answer me. Why are we banking? This isn't the vector for Seoul." Silence. The cockpit door remains a slab of reinforced carbon fiber, cold and indifferent. The ledger records the cabin. Junho is still seated, his Patek Philippe gleaming under the recessed LEDs. He isn't reaching for a weapon. He isn't reaching for the intercom. He is simply holding a napkin, folding it into a perfect, sharp-edged square. His heart rate, judged by the rhythmic twitch of his jugular, 65 beats per minute. He is at peace. He is the one who gave the order to turn. "Mina," Junho says, his voice smooth, a velvet contrast to the chairman's gravel. The chairman's glass, it's on the floor. It's unsightly. Please. I move. My steps are measured, defying the 15-degree list of the floor. I retrieve the glass. As I straighten, I see it, the glint of steel. It isn't a gun. A gun is too loud for a pressurized cabin at 41,000 feet. It's a ceramic blade, invisible to the pre-flight scanners, sliding out from the sleeve of the chairman's own lead bodyguard, a man who has stood behind him for a decade. The guard doesn't look at me. He looks at the back of the chairman's head. The ledger flashes. The guard's stance is wide. He is compensating for the bank. He is waiting for the peak of the turn to use the centrifugal force to drive the blade through the C2 vertebra. I have 2 seconds. In the galley, the door bursts open. Chef Sunny stumbles out, clutching a tray of agedashi tofu like it's a holy relic. He is wearing a helmet, a literal bicycle helmet he must keep for turbulence. It looks ridiculous, but his face is a mask of pure, unadulterated agony. "The integrity!" Sunny screams, his voice hitting a frantic tenor. "The dashi is sloshing. The starch coating is absorbing the moisture at an accelerated rate because of the cabin pressure fluctuation. If the crispness to silkiness ratio is lost, I am a failure. I am a butcher. Elias, look at the tofu. It's weeping. Tell the magazine it was the pilot's fault." Sunny's stumble is the pivot. He loses his footing on the slanted floor, the tray of tofu flying from his hands. The bodyguard flinches. That split second of absurd reality, the sight of a screaming chef in a bicycle helmet, breaks the professional's focus. I don't scream. I don't warn. I act. As I stand up with the champagne glass, I trip. I drive my elbow upward, catching the bodyguard's wrist. The ceramic blade misses the chairman's neck by a fraction of an inch, burying itself into the leather headrest with a dull thunk. The chairman spins around, the dying lion suddenly finding his claws. He grabs the guard's throat with surprising strength, his face contorted into a mask of ancestral rage. "You?" the chairman whispers. "I paid for your daughter's wedding. I bought your father's lungs." The guard doesn't answer. He can't. Elias is suddenly there, moving like a shadow detached from a wall. He doesn't use a blade. He uses a tactical pen, driving it into the guard's radial nerve. The guard's hand goes limp. The ceramic knife falls. Elias sweeps it up in one fluid motion and holds it to the guard's eye. "Who?" Elias asks. His voice is a flat line. The guard looks past the chairman. He looks at Junho. Junho finishes folding his napkin. He places it neatly beside his tablet. He doesn't look at the guard. He looks at the chairman. "Brother," Junho says softly, "you're seeing ghosts." The man is clearly suffering from hypoxia. The altitude. The captain mentioned the headwind. Perhaps the oxygen scrubbers are failing. You're becoming paranoid. Paranoid? The chairman points at the blade in Elias's hand. "This is a hit, Junho. On my own plane." "It's a symptom of a failing system," Junho counters, rising slowly. He stands tall, the image of modern stability. "Your men are tired of living in the 1980s, Hyungnim. They want a leader who uses data, not daggers. Look at you. You're shaking. You're a liability to the Shinhei name." The plane levels out abruptly. The cold reality of Captain Taehee's control is felt in the pit of every stomach. The intercom chimes. "Chairman," the captain's voice is monotone, devoid of the earlier tremor. "We have bypassed a soul vector. We are currently over the Sea of Japan. We are entering a holding pattern at 43,000 feet. I suggest you finalize your discussions. Fuel is a finite resource." The threat is silent but absolute. Taehee isn't just flying, he's a jailer. He has taken us higher, where the air is thinner, where any breach of the hull is instant mummification. He is telling the chairman, "The sky belongs to your brother now." The chairman sinks back into his throne. He looks at the guard, now zip-tied to a jump seat by Elias. Then he looks at me. The ledger records. The chairman's gaze is no longer cloudy. It is piercing. He is analyzing my trip. He saw the elbow. He saw the calculation. "Mina," he says. "Yes, Chairman. You saved me." "I slipped, Chairman. The floor was wet from the champagne." "Don't lie to me," he snaps, then winces as a coughing fit seizes his chest. I step forward with a fresh glass of water, but he pushes it away. He looks at Elias, then at me. "The two of you are the only ones on this plane who aren't on my brother's payroll. Or perhaps you're just waiting for a better offer." Elias remains silent, his eyes on the cockpit door. He is mapping the tactical geometry of the room. He knows the guard was just the first wave. Suddenly, Sonny wails from the galley. He is on his knees, staring at a piece of tofu that has slid under the chairman's desk. "It's over," Sonny moans, his helmet lopsided. The texture is compromised. The yuzu soy air has dissipated into nothingness. "Elias! You saw it. You saw the tragedy. I cannot be expected to maintain a Michelin standard in a war zone. The reviewers must be told. This environment is hostile to the arts." "Sonny, go back to the kitchen and prepare the main course," the chairman commands, his voice gaining a terrifying coldness. "Main course?" Sonny looks up, appalled. In this turbulence? The duck breast will be tough. It will be like chewing a tire. If there is no duck breast in 20 minutes, the chairman says, leaning forward, I will have the pilot depressurize the galley. Do you understand, chef? Sonny freezes. The absurd reality hits the lethal reality. He swallows, nods frantically, and scrambles back into his sanctuary of copper and steam. The chairman turns his attention back to Junho. You think Tae-hee will land this plane for you? You think the board will accept a fratricide as a corporate transition? The board already has, Junho says, picking up his tablet. He turns the screen toward the chairman. It's a digital ledger, my speciality, but in a language of numbers and offshore accounts. Madame Simone has already signed the credit default swaps. Your assets are being frozen as we speak. By the time we land, wherever that may be, you won't be a chairman. You'll be a private citizen with a very bad medical history. I still have the codes for the Singapore vault, the chairman growls. Junho smiles for the first time. It's a thin, surgical expression. I don't need the codes, Hyung-Mim. I have the captain. And the captain has the altitude. The plane begins to climb again. My ears pop. The hum of the engines changes to a high-pitched whine. We are pushing the service ceiling of the G650. Elias moves toward me, pretending to check the wine rack. The captain is starving the engines of oxygen to force a confrontation, he whispers. He's going to take us to 50,000. We'll all be lightheaded. It makes the moral collapse easier. I look at the chairman, the man who murdered my family for a rounding error. I look at Junho, the man who wants to turn the syndicate into a bloodless machine. The ledger records a new data point, my own heart rate, 60 beats per minute. I am not afraid. I am the weapon. Chairman, I say, stepping into the light, the brother is right about one thing. The system is failing, but he's wrong about who controls the data. I look at Junho. I know the password to the Singapore vault. I heard you say it in your sleep 3 years ago, Chairman. And I know Junho's secret deal with Madame Simone isn't about a merger. It's about a liquidation. The silence that follows is heavier than the G-force of the climb. What did you say? Junho's voice loses its velvet. The ledger never forgets, I say, my voice a cold cinematic chime. The game has shifted. I am no longer serving the champagne. I am pouring the poison. The air in the cabin has changed. It isn't just the thinning oxygen as Captain Tae-hee pushes the Aurealis toward its physical ceiling. It is the sudden, jagged realization that the furniture has begun to speak. Junho's face, usually a masterpiece of corporate composure, twitches. The ledger records the micro-movement, a flicker of the depressor anguli oris. Contempt masked by shock. He looks at me, really looks at me, for the first time in 3 years. I am no longer the girl who brings the hot towels. I am a vault that has cracked open, revealing his own secrets. A liquidation. Chairman Park's voice is a low rumble, the sound of a landslide beginning. He ignores the zip-tied guard. He ignores his brother. He stares at me. Mina, explain. 3 years ago, Macau, I say, my voice steady, cutting through the hum of the overstressed engines. Junho met with Madame Simone's predecessor. He didn't offer a merger of the Shinhei routes. He offered a controlled demolition. He promised to move the chairman's primary capital into a dead-end shell company, Vanguard Blue, then trigger a fraud investigation. The assets wouldn't be merged. They would be seized by the bank. Madame Simone is the bank. The chairman turns his head slowly toward his brother. The movement is stiff, skeletal. Vanguard Blue? That was the foundation of our European expansion, Junho. You told me it was the future. It is the future, Junho snaps, his voice losing its polished edge. A future where we aren't tied to your archaic blood feuds. We are a multi-billion-dollar entity, Hyungnim, yet you still insist on meeting rivals in back alleys with knives. I am trying to save the empire by professionalizing it. By stealing it? The chairman's hand moves toward the hidden compartment in his obsidian desk. Don't, a new voice commands. Elias, the ghost, has moved. He isn't sitting at his laptop anymore. He is standing in the center of the aisle, positioned perfectly between the brothers. He holds a small, encrypted mobile device. Chairman, Elias says, his tone devoid of the subservience he practiced an hour ago. Don't reach for the weapon. If your heart rate exceeds 110, the captain has instructions to trigger an emergency oxygen dump. At this altitude, you'll be unconscious in 10 seconds. I'm here to ensure a stable transition. That was our contract, wasn't it? The chairman freezes. The betrayal is now a circle, closing in on itself. Elias, I hired you to find the rat. And I found him, Elias says, glancing at Junho, then back to the chairman. But I also found the rot. My loyalty isn't to a person, Chairman. I am a forensic investigator. I follow the flow of power, and right now, the power is bleeding out of you. The ledger registers the shift. Elias isn't working for Junho, not yet. He is an independent agent, a shark sensing blood in the water, waiting to see who offers the biggest kill. Suddenly, the galley door shudders. A smell of burnt butter and desperation wafts into the cabin. Chef Sonny stumbles out, his bicycle helmet now adorned with a smear of what looks like truffle reduction. He is holding a digital kitchen scale, as if it were a thermal detonator. The pressure, Sonny wails, his eyes wide and bloodshot. The atmospheric weight is fluctuating. My soufflés, they are terrified. They refuse to rise. They know we are in a vacuum of culture. Elias, you, the critic, you must understand. How can I achieve a perfect aerated texture when the captain is playing with the altimeter like a toy? Tell them the physics are sabotaging the menu. Sonny, get back in the galley, Junho barks. No, Sonny stamps a foot, his voice cracking. I have a reputation. If this plane goes down and they find my body next to a collapsed soufflé, that is the legacy that follows me into the afterlife. I will not have it. I demand a stable cruise altitude for the next 12 minutes or I am resigning. You'll be resigning your life if you don't shut up, Elias says, not even looking at him. Sonny pales, looks at the zip-tied guard, looks at the ceramic blade embedded in the leather, and backpedals into the galley, whispering a frantic prayer to the gods of French pastry. The door clicks shut, leaving the heavy, lethal silence once more. The plane lurches. Outside the windows, the sky is no longer blue. It is a deep, bruised indigo, the color of the edge of the world. Captain Tae-hee, Junho says into the air, knowing the cockpit is listening. Give us 10% more oxygen. The chairman needs to be lucid for the transfer. The hiss of the vents changes pitch. The cold reality of the pilot's presence is felt as a slight cooling of the skin. Mina, Junho turns to me, his eyes cold and calculating. You have a gift, the ledger. My brother wasted you as a servant. I can offer you a seat at the table. Real power. Not just memorizing wine vintages, but memorizing the names of the people we own. Tell the chairman the truth. Tell him that his time ended the moment he stepped onto this flight. The chairman looks at me, his face a mask of ancient grief. Mina, you are the only thing in this room I didn't buy with a threat. Is it true? Did I lose my family for a budget decision? The ledger pulses. This is the moment. The invisible hire isn't just Elias, it's me. I was hired by the chairman's own guild years ago, though he never knew it. You ordered the hit on the Busan dock workers in 2018, I say, my voice dropping to a whisper. You said the union was a variable cost that needed to be eliminated. My father was the lead negotiator. You didn't even remember his name when you signed the requisition for the security team. You didn't kill him out of hate, Chairman. You killed him because he was a line item. The chairman's eyes widen. For the first time, I see the dying lion truly bleed. It isn't a wound of the flesh. It's the realization that his invisibility, the distance he kept from his crimes, has finally failed. I didn't know, he mumbles. That's the sin, I reply. Junho laughs, a sharp metallic sound. See? This is the ghost you've been feeding, Hyungnim. Your own history is coming for your throat. Elias, give me the device. Let's finish the transfer before the captain runs out of sky. Elias doesn't move. He looks at me, then at Junho. There's a problem with the liquidation, Junho. Madame Simone isn't interested in a controlled demolition anymore. She's seen the ledger, or rather, she's heard about it. The intercom chimes. Madame Simone's voice, deep, accented, and radiating an icy authority, fills the cabin. She isn't on the plane, but she is the one holding the leash. Gentlemen, she says, and the talented Mademoiselle Mina. It seems the Aurealis is a very noisy bird. My banks have been watching the Vanguard Blue accounts. Junho, you were sloppy. You tried to skim 5% off the top for your own retirement. The chairman is a dinosaur, yes, but you are a parasite. And I do not partner with parasites. The plane suddenly drops 500 feet in a terrifying standard rate descent. My stomach hits my throat. Captain Tae-hee, Simone's voice continues. The brothers' contract is void. You are now working for the bank. Maintain the descent. Bring them down to 10,000 feet. We need to prepare for a change in management. Junho's face goes white. He looks at the cockpit door. Tae-hee, I promised you the Jeju estate. I promised you. The bank promised me immunity. The captain's voice comes over the speakers, cold and final. The ledger records the collapse. Junho drops into his seat, his Patek Philippe suddenly looking like a shackle. The chairman is staring at me, his eyes wet with a strange, terrifying pride. You told her, the chairman whispers. You gave the ledger to Simone. I didn't give it to her, I say, smoothing my silk apron. I sold it. You taught me well, Chairman. Everything is a variable cost. Even loyalty. Elias lowers his device and looks at me with a grim smile. It seems I'm working for you now, Mina. In the galley, a tray of crystal glasses shatters. Sunny's voice screams through the door. The G-Force! The G-Force has ruined the moose! We are all savages! The Aurealis screams as it dives through the clouds, leaving the Sky Kingdom behind for the reality of the earth below. The takeover isn't over. It has just changed hands. The descent is a physical weight, a heavy hand pressing us all into the plush, expensive leather of our seats. At 10,000 feet, the bruising indigo of the high atmosphere gives way to a turbulent charcoal grey. The Aurealis shakes, Not the mechanical shudder of a failing engine, but the violent protest of an airframe being forced into a new reality. Jun-ho is no longer the predator. The ledger records the rapid disintegration of his modern man persona. His hands, once steady enough to perform surgery, are now shoved deep into his pockets to hide the tremors. He stares at the cockpit door, the door behind which Captain Tai-hee has just executed a silent mid-air coup. "The bank," Jun-ho whispers, his voice thin, stripped of its velvet. "Simone doesn't do management changes, she does erasures. Mina, you don't understand what you've triggered. You think you sold her the ledger. You just gave her the map to your own execution." "I've spent 10 years being invisible, Jun-ho," I reply, my voice a calm anchor in the vibrating cabin. "Being erased is only a threat to people who exist. To the Shinhei Syndicate, I've always been a ghost. Now, I'm just a ghost with a seat at the table." I walk toward the chairman. He looks smaller now. The dying lion has reached the end of the savannah. He isn't fighting the G-force of the descent, he is letting it take him. He looks at the glass of water I placed before him, the water he refused earlier. He reaches out and takes a sip. "The Busan dock workers," the chairman says, his eyes fixed on the grey clouds whipping past the windows. I remember the weather that day. It was raining. I remember the cost of the rain, the delays in the shipment. I didn't think about the families. I thought about the insurance premiums. He looks up at me, a terrifyingly lucid smile touching his lips. "You have his eyes, Mina. Your father." He looked at me with that same analytical boredom, as if I were a problem he had already solved. "He was a negotiator, Chairman," I say. "He believed every conflict had a price. He just didn't realize you were paying in blood." "And now you are the negotiator," the chairman rasps. He turns his head toward Elias. "And you, investigator, what is your price now that the bank has taken the helm?" Elias is standing by the emergency exit, his hand resting lightly on the manual release. A reminder that at 10,000 feet, he still controls the local geography of the cabin. "My price is the same as it always was, survival with a side of profit. Madame Simone has offered me a retainer to ensure the assets on this plane are delivered in a state of maximum leverage. That means keeping you alive long enough to sign the physical deeds, and keeping Jun-ho alive long enough to explain the missing 5%. Jun-ho leaps up, his chair spinning away. "There is no missing 5%. It was a hedge, a protective move against Simone's predatory interest rates." "The ledger says otherwise," I interject. "October 14th. You placed a call from the penthouse in Jeju. You told your broker to skim the foam off the Vanguard Blue transfer. You thought I was in the kitchen. I was actually measuring the rhythm of your speech through the vent. You were lying even then." The galley door flies open with a violent bang. Chef Sonny stumbles out, his bicycle helmet strapped so tight his cheeks are bulging. He is holding a tray of magret de canard, but the duck breasts are sliding around in a pool of blood-red cherry reduction. "The turbulence!" Sonny howls, his voice a jagged edge of culinary despair. "The captain is intentional. He is doing this to spite the menu. Look at this duck. It has the texture of a wet sponge. The sear is lost. The crust is weeping. Elias, you are the critic. You must record this. I was forced to cook during a freefall. This is not a kitchen. It is a torture chamber for the soul." "Sonny, get back!" Jun-ho screams, his frustration finally boiling over. "I will not get back," Sonny retorts, stepping toward the obsidian table and slamming the tray down. The cherry sauce splashes onto Jun-ho's white silk shirt. You talk of liquidation. You talk of banks. I am talking about the death of a legacy. This duck was aged for 21 days, and you treat it like airline pasta. You are all Philistines, every one of you. The chairman laughs, a dry hacking sound that turns into a wet cough. He looks at the blood-red sauce on his brother's chest. See, Junho? Even the chef knows your time is up. You're stained. Sunny freezes, looking at the sauce on Junho, then at the zip-tied guard, then at the cold, hard eyes of Elias. The absurd reality finally catches up to the danger. He swallows, his Adam's apple bobbing behind the helmet strap. I have a secondary tray, Sonny whispers, his bravado evaporating. Perhaps the chilled lobster. It doesn't require a stable horizon. He retreats into the galley, his footsteps frantic and uneven. The plane levels out. The sudden transition from descent to level flight makes my knees buckle for a fraction of a second, but I recover. The intercom chimes. Captain Taehee's voice is no longer coming through the cabin speakers. It's a direct patch to the chairman's private headset. He puts it on. Taehee? The chairman asks. The rest of us can't hear the pilot's response, but we see the result. The chairman's face goes from grey to a ghostly, translucent white. He slowly removes the headset. The captain says we aren't landing at a civilian airport, the chairman says, his voice devoid of all hope. We are heading for a private strip in the Incheon Free Economic Zone. Madame Simone's personal sorting facility. Junho collapses back into his seat. The sorting facility, that's where they dissolve the companies and the people. It's where the mask comes off, Elias adds, checking his tactical pen. Junho, you wanted a modern world. Well, this is it. No back alleys, just a clean industrial room with a drain in the floor and the notary present. I move to the window. Below us, the clouds part for a moment, revealing the dark, cold expanse of the Yellow Sea. The Aurealis is a beautiful, gold-trimmed bullet screaming toward a target we can no longer see. The ledger records a final, chilling data point. The chairman isn't looking at Junho anymore. He is looking at me. Not with anger, but with a terrifying patriarchal hunger. Mina, he whispers. If I am to die in a sorting facility, I want to make sure the Shinhei name survives. Not through my brother. He is a thief without a soul. But through you. You have the ledger. You have the memory of every sin I ever committed. That makes you the most powerful person in Korea. I don't want your name, Chairman, I say, my voice cold. I want your debt. They are the same thing, he replies. Suddenly, the cabin lights flicker and die, replaced by the red glow of the emergency floor path lighting. The hum of the engines drops an octave. Taehee is cutting the transponder, Elias says, his voice sharpening. We're going dark. This is the moment, Mina. The bank is coming to collect. In the red light, Junho's face looks like a demon's mask. He reaches into his jacket, not for a phone, but for a hidden glass vial he's been carrying. If I'm going to be liquidated, Junho snarls, I'm taking the ledger with me. He lunges at me, but the sky, our silent weapon, intervenes. Captain Taehee executes a defensive break, a sharp roll to the right that sends Junho crashing into the ebony bulkhead. The vial shatters on the carpet. The scent of bitter almonds fills the air. Cyanide. The ledger records. Junho's heart rate, 0. He hit the bulkhead temple first. The brother is dead. The usurper is gone. And the plane is still screaming toward the ground. "One down," Elias says, looking at the body. 6 to go. I stand in the red light, the scent of almonds and burnt duck in my nose, and I realize the sorting has already begun. The red emergency lighting bathes the cabin in the color of an arterial spray. The Aurealis has leveled out at 10,000 feet, but the stability is a lie. Beneath our feet, the floorboards vibrate with the low-frequency hum of a transponder that has been scrubbed from the world's radar. To the air traffic controllers in Incheon, we no longer exist. We are a ghost ship made of gold and carbon fiber, steered by a man who has traded his soul for a pension from a bank. Junho's body lies slumped against the ebony bulkhead, his neck twisted at an angle that mocks his former elegance. The Patek Philippe on his wrist continues to tick, a silver heart beating for a dead man. The scent of bitter almonds, the cyanide he intended for me, lingers in the air, mixing with the metallic tang of the cherry reduction. Chairman Park doesn't look at his brother's corpse. He doesn't weep. The ledger records his reaction. His pupils have contracted into pinpricks, and his breathing has slowed to a terrifying rhythmic rasp. He is entering the survival trance. He has outlived his wife, his rivals, and now his only sibling. To him, Junho is no longer a brother. He is a failed investment. "Mina," the chairman says, his voice cutting through the engine drone. "The vial. He was going to kill you." "He was going to protect his secrets, Chairman," I reply, my voice as cold as the frost forming on the exterior glass. "He knew that as long as I am alive, the bank has a witness. He didn't want to kill me. He wanted to delete the evidence." Elias stands over the body, his face illuminated by the flickering red glow. He reaches down and closes Junho's eyes with a clinical detachment. It is a gesture of utility, not mercy. "The brother's death complicates the paperwork," Elias says, looking at me. "Madame Simone wanted a signature for the voluntary transfer of the Vanguard accounts. A dead man can't sign a deed of gift, which means the bank now needs a different way to legitimate the seizure. They need a successor." "A successor?" The chairman coughs, a wet, rattling sound. "I am still the chairman. I am the Shinhei." "You are a ghost in a suit, Park," Elias says, stepping over the body toward the chairman. "The bank doesn't deal with ghosts. They deal with titles. According to the syndicate's internal bylaws, the ones Junho drafted to protect himself. In the event of the chairman's incapacity and the death of the immediate kin, the power of attorney falls to the chief of staff. Or, in this case, the closest surviving executive aide with the ledger. The ledger pulses in my mind. I see the legal architecture Junho built. He intended to sideline his brother and then rule through me, using my memory as his database. He built a throne for himself and accidentally left the door unlocked for me. "You want me to take the throne?" I say to Elias. "But I don't work for the Shinhei. I serve the champagne." "The bank doesn't care what you call yourself," Elias counters. "They want someone who can point to the offshore accounts, recite the encryptions, and sign the documents that make the theft legal. If you do it, you live. You become Madame Simone's local governor. If you don't..." He glances at the emergency exit. Suddenly, the galley door slides open. Chef Sonny stumbles out, his bicycle helmet now decorated with a smear of blue-grey ash. He is holding a silver platter covered by a domed cloche. His hands are shaking so violently the dome rattles like a frantic bell. "The lobster!" Sonny screams, though it is more of a sob. The lobster has been subjected to a vacuum-sealed poaching process that is now invalidated. The depressurization has caused the proteins to seize. It is tough. It is rubber. It is a culinary war crime. He stops dead when he sees Junho's body. He looks at the red lights. He looks at the shattered vial. He didn't like the duck, Sonny whispers, his voice cracking. Was it the sauce? I told him the cherry was too acidic for the altitude. I warned him. He's not dead because of the duck, Sonny, I say, stepping toward the chef. Then why? Sonny wails, his eyes darting to Elias. Is this the review? Is this how you score a 0-star rating? By killing the guests? I will not have it. I will go to the press. I will tell them that the Shinhei Syndicate has no appreciation for the delicate balance of a shellfish reduction. Sonny, listen to me, I say, grabbing his shoulders. I can feel the frantic thud of his heart through his white coat. The chairman is hungry. If you don't serve the lobster now, the pilot will turn off the heat in the galley. Do you understand? The kitchen will freeze. Your ingredients will die. Sonny's face pales to the color of bleached flour. The threat of losing his art is the only thing that pierces his panic. He swallows, adjusts his helmet, and looks at the chairman with a mixture of terror and professional pride. It needs more salt, Sonny whimpers. The altitude deadens the tongue. Everything needs more salt. He places the platter on the obsidian table, right next to where Junho's hand rests. He lifts the cloche with a flourish that is pathetic and brave all at once. The lobster is there, perfectly plated, surrounded by microgreens that look wilted in the red light. Enjoy, Sonny whispers, before sprinting back into the galley and locking the door behind him. The chairman looks at the lobster. Then he looks at the ceramic blade still embedded in the leather of the seat. He reaches out, pulls the blade free with a sharp zip, and uses it to slice a piece of the lobster. He eats it slowly, his eyes never leaving mine. It is salty, the chairman says, like the sea where I drowned your father's ambitions. The moral pressure in the room is a physical force. The sky outside is a wall of charcoal clouds, and the Aurealis is being tossed by the rising storm of the Incheon coast. Mina, the chairman says, pointing the ceramic blade at me. A loyalty test. Elias says the bank needs a successor. I say the Shinhei needs a daughter. If you take the pen and sign the papers Elias has on that laptop, you are betraying my blood. You are becoming the thief my brother was. But if you pick up this blade and finish what the guard started, you are the true heir. You are the one who understands that power isn't about ledgers. It's about the nerve to strike. He lays the blade on the table, between the lobster and the dead man's hand. The ledger records the variables. If I take the pen, I am a puppet for Madame Simone. I live, but I am owned. If I take the blade, I am a murderer. I become the very thing that destroyed my family. If I do nothing, Captain Tai-hee will land this plane and Madame Simone's sorting facility will decide for me. The intercom chimes. It's the captain. Chairman, we are 3 minutes from the Incheon perimeter. The landing gear is being cycled. I need a decision on the cargo status. Madame Simone is on the ground. She is asking, is the ledger signed or is it closed? Elias steps forward, opening a digital document on his tablet. He holds a stylus out to me. The pen is lighter than the knife, Mina. Don't be a martyr for a dead era. I look at the chairman. He is smiling now, a hideous, hopeful expression. He wants me to kill him. He wants his death to mean something, to be the final initiation into his world of blood. He wants to win by making me like him. I reach out. My hand hovers over the table. The ledger registers the chairman's heart rate, 115. He is excited. He is waiting for the sting. I don't take the blade. I don't take the pen. I take the salt shaker Chef Sonny left on the table. I unscrew the cap and pour a white line of salt across the obsidian table, separating the chairman from the dead brother. The ledger is closed, I say, my voice ringing with a terrifying clarity. I am not your daughter, Chairman, and I am not Simone's governor. I am the woman who remembers everything you ever did, and I am going to tell the captain to open the door. Mina, what are you doing? Elias hisses, his hand moving to his belt. Tai-hee, I shout at the ceiling, knowing the pilot is listening. You wanted immunity? The bank won't give it to you. They'll dispose of you the moment the wheels touch the tarmac. But I have the codes to the Singapore vault. I have the location of the physical bullion in Busan. You land this plane at the public terminal. You land it now, or I'll tell the chairman the real reason you're working for his brother. The plane suddenly lurches, a violent gut-wrenching yaw to the left. The real reason? The chairman growls, his hand gripping the ceramic blade again. He didn't do it for money, Chairman, I say, looking at the cockpit door. He did it because you're the one who crashed his father's ferry 10 years ago. He's been waiting for this flight his entire career. The silence that follows is broken only by the scream of the wind against the hull. The sky is no longer a silent weapon. It is a witness. 3 minutes to landing, the captain's voice crackles, sounding different now. Raw, human. And Mina is right. We aren't going to the sorting facility. We're going to the sea. The nose of the Aurealis dips sharply. We aren't landing, we are diving. The Aurealis is no longer an aircraft. It is a 400-mile-per-hour suicide note. The G-force of the sudden dive pins us against our seats, the blood rushing to the front of our skulls. Outside the windows, the grey soup of the Incheon clouds has been replaced by a terrifyingly clear view of the Yellow Sea. A churning slate-coloured abyss rising to meet us. Tae-hee! Chairman Park screams, his voice cracking as he claws at the obsidian desk. Tae-hee, pull up! You'll kill us all! That was always the itinerary, Chairman. The captain's voice crackles over the speakers, no longer the monotone of a professional pilot, but the jagged snarl of a man who has reached the end of a 10-year wait. The bank wanted a transfer. Your brother wanted a coup. But I just wanted the water. Do you remember the Sejong-ho ferry, Chairman? The one you overloaded with illegal industrial steel? My father was the chief engineer. He stayed in the belly to try and stop the leak. You settled the lawsuit for the price of a mid-size sedan. The ledger records the chairman's collapse. He isn't fighting for the controls anymore. He is staring at the back of the cockpit door, his mouth agape. The irony is a physical blow. He spent 40 years fearing the rivals at his front door, only to be executed by the man who spent 20 years quietly serving him coffee in the cockpit. Elias! Junho's dead body slides across the carpet, slamming into Elias's shins. Elias doesn't flinch. He is bracing himself against the bulkhead, his eyes locked on mine. The codes, Mina! Elias shouts over the roar of the wind. The Singapore vault! If you want to live, give Tae-hee the numbers. It's the only leverage left. I look at Elias, the ghost, the investigator. Even now, with the ocean rushing toward us, he is calculating the profit margin. The ledger scans him. Heart rate 102, elevated but not panicked. He is still playing the game. "You're not here for the Shinhei, are you, Elias?" I say, my voice steady despite the vibration rattling my teeth. "And you're not here for the bank. You're an independent. You wanted the chairman and the brother to kill each other so you could walk away with the keys to the kingdom. You're the one who told Tae-hee about the ferry. You're the one who spun the web." Elias doesn't deny it. He gives me a tight, grim nod. "In a world of monsters, Mina, the only way to win is to be the person who writes the autopsy report. Now give him the codes." The galley door bursts open and Chef Sonny falls into the cabin, his bicycle helmet skidding across the floor. He is covered in white powder, flour or salt, I can't tell. And he is clutching a massive, oversized pepper mill as if it were a life preserver. "The pressure!" Sonny shrieks, his voice hitting a frequency that rivals the engine whine. "The equalization valve has failed. The air is screaming. My soufflés, they haven't just collapsed, they have imploded. They are tiny black craters of failure. Elias, you must record this. This is not an accident, it is an act of culinary terrorism. I cannot be expected to work under the threat of total oceanic immersion. The salt spray will ruin the palate of the entire region." "Sonny, get in a seat," I yell. "A seat? No, I must secure the truffles." Sonny scrambles toward a storage locker, his panic providing the only air in the suffocating tension of the cabin. "They are Perigord. They cost more than your lives. I will not let them drown in the Yellow Sea. It's an insult to the earth." The plane lurches again as Tae-hee pulls the nose up at the last possible second, the Aurealis skimming the whitecaps of the waves. The sound of water hitting the hull is like 1,000 hammers striking the aluminium skin. We are ground effect flying, using the cushion of air between the wings and the water to stay level. It is a high-speed game of chicken with the planet. The intercom chimes. "Mina," Tae-hee's voice is shaking now. "The codes. Give me the Singapore authorization. I want the money to burn the Shinhei name to the ground. Give it to me or I dip the left wing. We'll cartwheel across the water for 3 miles. I look at the chairman. He is reaching for the ceramic blade again, his eyes clouded with a madness I haven't seen before. He isn't looking at me as a servant or a successor. He sees me as the physical manifestation of his debt. "Give him the codes, Mina," the chairman whispers. "Give him the money. Let him have the gold. Just don't let the ledger die. If you die, the Shinhei never existed. It's all just wind. The moral pressure is a vice. If I give the codes, I fund a vengeful pilot and a corporate shark. If I don't, we all die in a $1 billion coffin. The codes aren't in a vault, Tae-hee," I scream at the ceiling. "There is no Singapore account. The chairman moved everything to a physical cold storage drive 6 months ago. It's on the plane. It's in the one place no one ever looks." Elias freezes. He looks around the cabin, the obsidian desk, the hidden wall safes, the floorboards. "Where?" The ledger records the investigator's greed. It's his blind spot. He thinks like a thief, so he looks for a safe. But the chairman is a man of symbols. "It's in the wine," I say. Everyone's eyes dart to the climate-controlled rack at the back of the cabin. The 1945 Romani Conti. The bottle the chairman said was too precious to ever open. Elias lunges for the rack. "No!" the chairman roars, lunging from his seat with the ceramic blade. The two men collide in the narrow aisle. It is a clumsy, desperate struggle. The dying lion and the ghost fighting over a bottle of fermented grapes. The plane tilts as Tai-hee reacts to the movement in the back. "The wing!" Sonny screams from the floor, where he is currently hugging a crate of expensive mushrooms. "He's dipping the wing! We're going to be salted. We're going to be cured like Hans." The left wingtip clips a cresting wave. The sound is a deafening metallic shriek. The Aurealis yawns violently. Inside the cabin, the Romani Conti bottle flies out of the rack, shattering against the bulkhead right next to Junho's head. There is no wine inside. Only a small silver USB drive encased in a waterproof polymer and a single handwritten note. Elias dives for the drive, but I am faster. I am the Trojan horse. I have spent 10 years learning the rhythm of this plane. I know exactly how to move when the floor is tilted. I snatch the drive and hold it over the open waste disposal chute in the galley. "Tai-hee!" I shout. "Level the plane or the Shinhei fortune goes into the Atlantic current." The plane stabilizes. The silence that follows is more terrifying than the roar of the water. "Mina," Elias says, his voice low and dangerous. He is holding the ceramic blade now. He took it from the chairman during the struggle. The chairman is slumped on the floor, his breath coming in ragged, bloody gasps. "Give me the drive. You don't know how to use that money. I do. I can disappear you. I can give you the life your father wanted for you." "My father wanted me to be honest," I say, my hand hovering over the chute. "He didn't realize that in this world, honesty is just a different kind of currency." In the galley, Sonny pops his head up, his bicycle helmet lopsided. He looks at the shattered wine bottle, then at the silver drive in my hand. "Wait," Sonny says, his voice suddenly quiet. "The 1945, it was a fake? All this time, I've been guarding a bottle of plastic and silicon. I spent 3 hours a week checking the temperature of a hard drive." He looks at the chairman, then at Elias, then at the dead body of the brother. A strange, hysterical laugh bubbles up from his chest. "You people are insane," Sonny says, stepping out of the galley. He isn't shaking anymore. He's just tired. "You're fighting over a ghost. Elias, you want to be a king? Look at the chairman. He's a king, and he's currently bleeding on a carpet that costs more than a hospital. Tai-hee, you want revenge? You're already a murderer. You've killed the Shinhei name. It's done." Sonny reaches out and takes the pepper mill. He starts grinding pepper over the lobster that is still sitting on the table. "The salt was a good touch, Mina," Sonny says, nodding to me. "But it needed a little heat." The intercom chimes one last time. "1 minute to fuel exhaustion," Tai-hee says. His voice is flat. The fire of his revenge has been replaced by the cold realization of his own end. "I'm putting it down on the water. If you want to live, get in the aft seats and pray to whatever God handles your bank accounts." The Aurealis flares its landing flaps. The sky, the silent weapon, is finally finished with us. It is handing us over to the sea. The ledger records a final, absolute truth. There is no winner in a takeover of a sinking ship. "Elias," I say, holding the drive. "The bank is waiting on the shore. They don't want the chairman. They don't want the pilot. They want the ledger. And I'm the only one who knows the encryption." I look at the chairman, who is watching me with a look of terrifying silent approval. He has won. He has turned me into a player. "Brace for impact," I say. The world turns into a wall of white water and screaming metal. Final philosophy. Power is not a possession. It is a parasitic system. It does not care who sits on the throne, as long as the throne is occupied. Loyalty is a costume worn by those too afraid to see the void, and survival is the only morality that remains when the air runs out. In the end, the Shinhei didn't fall because of a coup. It fell because it forgot that the people who serve the champagne are the ones who know exactly where the poison is kept. The system survives the people, but it is the people who remember where the bodies are buried. The impact isn't the end. It is a violent recalibration. The Aurealis didn't shatter. It bit into the yellow sea and skipped, $1 billion stone skimming across a slate-grey graveyard. When the motion finally stops, the silence is more violent than the crash. The emergency red lights have died, replaced by the eerie, natural luminescence of the moon reflecting off the water through the cracked polycarbonate windows. We are floating, but the plane is groaning, a wounded beast settling into its final bed. I am the first to move. The ledger is a cold, buzzing machine in my skull, overriding the pain in my shoulder. I check my pulse, 72 beats per minute, clinical. I look at the drive in my hand, the silver key to the Shinhei kingdom, and then at the cabin. The chairman is slumped in the throne chair, his head lolling against the leather. He is breathing, but it is a wet, shallow sound. Elias is across the aisle, pinned under a dislodged bulkhead panel. His eyes are open, tracking me with the predatory intensity of a trapped wolf. Junho's body has been thrown to the back of the plane, a discarded mannequin in a designer suit. The seal, a voice whimpers. I turn. Chef Sonny is huddled in the corner of the galley, his bicycle helmet cracked down the middle. He is clutching a vacuum-sealed bag of black truffles to his chest like a holy relic. He isn't looking at the water rising outside the windows. He is looking at the condensation on the inside of the truffle bag. The humidity, Sonny whispers, his voice a jagged edge of hysteria. The salt air is penetrating the membrane. If the salinity reaches the core, the aroma profile is destroyed. Mina, you must help me. These are the 2025 harvests. They are irreplaceable. We are sinking into a literal brine, and my career is being pickled. Sonny, stay quiet, I command. My voice sounds like it belongs to someone else, someone harder. I move toward the cockpit. The carbon fiber door is jammed, buckled by the force of the water. I press my ear to the cold surface. Taehi? No answer. Only the sound of water rushing into the nose cone. The cold reality hits me. The captain didn't plan for a rescue. He planned for a burial. He is the first of us to find peace. Mina. Elias's voice is a strained rasp. The drive. Give me the drive, and I'll tell you how to trigger the emergency life raft. It's a secondary system, separate from the cockpit. Only the assistant has the override. The ledger scans the room. I see the manual override panel near the galley. I also see the rising water line near the floorboards. Elias is lying. He doesn't need the drive to tell me. He needs the drive to ensure I don't leave him behind to drown. You're mapping the exits again, Elias, I say, stepping over a pile of shattered crystal. But you're forgetting the physics. The water pressure is holding the main door shut. If we trigger the raft inside, we crush ourselves against the ceiling. If we wait for the pressure to equalize, we drown before the raft deploys. Then what is your move, Trojan horse? Elias sneers, a thin trail of blood running from his ear. Wait for Madame Simone to send a boat? She's not coming for survivors. She's coming for salvage. The moral pressure is a tightening vice. I look at the chairman. He opens his eyes, a flicker of the dying lion returning for one final roar. He reaches out, his hand trembling, and grabs the hem of my silk apron. "Mina," he gasps. "The ledger, tell me. The encryption. Don't let her have it. Don't let the bank win." "The encryption isn't a code, Chairman," I say, leaning down until my face is inches from his. "It's a memory. It's the sound of the rain in Busan. It's the specific weight of the steel on the Sejong-ho. You thought you were hiding money. You were actually hiding your own conviction." The chairman's grip tightens. "Use it. Kill them. Kill the bank. Build a new world on my bones." It is the ultimate trap. He is offering me the empire not as a gift, but as a curse. He wants me to become the monster he was, to ensure the Shinhei name lives through my vengeance. Suddenly, the plane groans and shifts. The tail section is taking on water faster than the nose. The Aurealis is tilting upward. "The truffles!" Sunny screams, scrambling toward the high ground of the obsidian table. "They are floating. They are buoyant. It's a miracle. A buoyancy of flavor. Mina, look. They are resisting the salt. They have more character than any of you." The absurd reality of Sunny's joy in the face of death is the only thing that breaks the tension. I look at the drive. I look at Elias. "Elias," I say, "the override, now, or I leave you for the sharks and the truffles." Elias stares at me, realizing his leverage has evaporated. He exhales a bloody breath. Under the galley sink, the red lever, it's a manual hydraulic bypass. It'll blow the emergency hatch above the wings. But once it's open, the plane sinks in 60 seconds. I move to the galley. Sunny is standing on the obsidian table, holding his truffles aloft like a king. "Sunny, get ready to swim," I say. "Swim? In this silk? The drag will be immense." I ignore him and pull the lever. A muffled explosion echoes through the cabin. The overhead hatch blows outward, and a rush of cold, salt-laden night air pours in. The sound of the sea is deafening now, a roar of hungry waves. The Aurealis begins its final descent into the abyss. "The chairman!" Elias shouts, struggling against the bulkhead. "Mina, help me! We need his thumbprint for the physical drives in Busan. He's the only one who can unlock the hardware." The ledger registers the choice. Save the chairman, keep the dying lion alive as a figurehead and a key, but risk his eventual betrayal. Save Elias, keep the investigator as a tool, but risk his greed. Save the ledger, save myself and the drive. I look at Chairman Park. He is looking at the open hatch, at the stars visible through the smoke. He isn't afraid anymore. He is finished. "Go," the chairman whispers. "The water, it's the same temperature as the rain." I turn to Elias. I don't help him. I move to the table and grab Chef Sunny by the collar of his white coat. "Mina, you're leaving me!" Elias roars, his voice filled with a terrifying, hollow rage. "I'm not leaving you, Elias," I say, my voice a cinematic coldness. "I'm liquidating the assets, just like you wanted." I shove Sunny toward the hatch. He scrambles up, clutching his truffles. I follow him, stepping onto the wing of the sinking plane. Behind me, in the red-tinted darkness of the cabin, I hear the chairman's last rattling breath and Elias's desperate, muffled cursing as the water swallows the obsidian desk. The Aurealis vanishes beneath the waves in a swirl of white foam and expensive silk. I am floating in the dark, cold water of the Yellow Sea, the silver drive tucked into my waterproof pocket. Beside me, Sonny is paddling furiously, his bicycle helmet bobbing like a buoy. "Mina!" Sonny gasps, spitting out salt water. "The truffles! They've absorbed the scent of the jet fuel. The profile is ruined. It's all for nothing. I am a chef without a soul." "Shut up, Sonny," I say, looking toward the horizon where the lights of a distant ship are approaching. The ledger records a new reality. The Shinhei is dead. The brother is dead. The pilot is dead. The assistant is at the bottom of the sea. I am the only one left who knows where the bodies are buried. And the bank is coming. The sky trap has closed. But I am the one who kept the key. Final philosophy. Power doesn't vanish. It simply changes state. It moves from the heavy, obsidian thrones of the past to the invisible, digital ledgers of the future. To survive the collapse of a system, you must be willing to let the architects drown in their own designs. Loyalty is a luxury for those who don't have to swim. And in the end, the only thing that survives the salt water is the memory of the cost. The water isn't the end of the sky, it is merely its mirror. As I bob in the swell of the Yellow Sea, the Aurealis, that flying throne, is a gargling shadow beneath my feet, dragging the history of the Shinhei Syndicate into the silt. But the ledger in my mind is screaming a warning. Something in the math of the moral collapse hasn't balanced yet. A powerful searchlight cuts through the mist, turning the black water into a churning sheet of silver. It isn't a rescue vessel. It's a high-speed interceptor craft, sleek and predatory, flying the flag of the Incheon Port Authority. A flag that, in this part of the world, belongs to Madame Simone. "Mina, the light! We're saved!" Sonny thrash paddles toward me, his bicycle helmet reflecting the glare like a beacon. Perhaps they have a dry kitchen. I can still salvage the mid-pallet if I can get these truffles under a heat lamp. "Stay down, Sonny," I hiss, pulling him back. But it's too late. A mechanical arm swings out from the side of the interceptor, and a voice booms over a loudspeaker. A voice that is cold, dry, and terrifyingly familiar. "Mademoiselle Mina, you have a very stubborn habit of remaining buoyant, Madame Simone." The architect, the bank. The interceptor pulls alongside us, its wake nearly swamping my lungs. Heavy-set men in tactical gear, not mafia thugs, but corporate mercenaries with clean shaves and sound suppressors, haul us out of the water. I am tossed onto the deck like a piece of salvaged cargo. Sonny follows, gasping, immediately checking the vacuum seal on his truffles before checking his own pulse. And then the bulkhead door of the cabin opens. Standing there, wrapped in a dry, charcoal-grey wool coat, is Elias. The ledger stutters. I calculate the variables in a heartbeat. The sky trap in Chapter 7, the dislodged bulkhead, the drowning investigator. It was a choreographed piece of theatre. "The water was colder than the brief suggested," Elias says, his voice devoid of the rasping desperation he showed on the plane. He is holding a hot cup of espresso. He looks at me with a clinical, terrifying boredom. But the Trojan horse performed exactly as anticipated. You chose to save the drive and the chef. A sentimental error, Mina, but a predictable one. The ledger records the betrayal. Elias didn't work for the chairman. He didn't work for the brother. He was Simone's eyes inside the cage from the very beginning. He wasn't trapped under the panel. He was waiting for me to reveal the location of the physical drive. Madame Simone steps into the light. She is a woman of indeterminate age, her skin the color of expensive parchment, her eyes 2 coins of cold logic. She looks at me, then at the silver drive clutched in my frozen hand. The Shinhei was a messy, sentimental organization, Simone says, her accent clipping the vowels like a guillotine. Chairman Park thought loyalty was a blood bond. Jun-ho thought it was a contract. They both forgot that loyalty is merely an insurance premium that neither of them could afford to pay anymore. Elias, take the drive. Elias steps forward. The power dynamic has shifted. We aren't on a plane anymore, but the pressure is higher. The Sky Throne has simply moved to a boat. Wait, I say, my voice raspy from the salt. I don't hand it over. I hold the drive over the churning wake of the interceptor. The drive is encrypted with a biometric and a mnemonic. If Elias takes it by force, the internal thermite strip fries the hardware. You'll have a piece of melted silver and no access to the Busan bullion. Elias stops. He looks at Simone. The ledger records his hesitation, a flicker of the eyelid. He didn't know about the thermite. Because I just lied. A mnemonic? Simone asks, her interest piqued. The memory-perfect hostess has a secret. How poetic. It's not a code, madam, I say, standing up, my wet silk uniform clinging to me like a second skin. It's the ledger. To unlock the Shinhei assets, you need the sequence of variable costs the chairman ignored. The families he broke. The names he forgot. I am the only one who can recite the sequence in the correct order of their deaths. She's bluffing, madam, Elias says, though he doesn't move. She's a servant. She's trying to negotiate a seat at a table she hasn't earned. I earned it at 40,000 feet, Elias, I retort. While you were pretending to drown, I was the one who managed the cold confession. I was the one who watched the brother die. I am the Shinhei now, not because of blood, but because of data. Suddenly the deck shudders. From the lower galley of the interceptor, a familiar high-pitched wail erupts. My brigade! Where is my brigade? Sonny has found the ship's kitchen. He bursts onto the deck, pursued by 2 confused-looking mercenaries. He is holding a professional-grade whisk and wearing an apron he must have stolen from the galley. Madam, you! Sonny points the whisk at Simone. You are the financier of this vessel. The equipment is abysmal. The induction burners are calibrated to a civilian frequency. I have 3 kilograms of Perigord truffles that are currently undergoing a catastrophic molecular breakdown due to the thermal shock of the seawater. I demand a sous chef and 4 liters of clarified butter immediately, or I will hold you personally responsible for the death of the finest appetizer in the Northern Hemisphere. The mercenaries move to grab him, but Simone raises a hand. A strange, thin smile touches her lips. The chef, she says. The one thing on the plane that wasn't a lie. I admire your commitment to the absurd, Monsieur Sonny. Elias, take the chef to the galley. Give him what he needs. A man who cares more about butter than his own life is a man who can be trusted with a secret. Madam, we don't have time for, Elias starts. We have all the time the sea gives us, Simone cuts him off. Take him, and bring Mina to my cabin. We will see if her ledger is worth the price of her life. Elias grips my arm. His grip is like iron, no longer the assistant, but the enforcer. He leans in close to my ear as he leads me toward the stairs. You think you're a player now, Mina? You're just a different kind of currency. And I'm the one who decides the exchange rate. The ledger records the moral pressure. I am in the architect's web. The chairman is dead. The sky has handed me to the bank. As we descend into the bowels of the ship, I hear Sonny's voice echoing from the galley. No, not that salt. The Malden. Do you want us to eat like peasants? The irony is a cold blade in my gut. Sonny is the only one who is truly free, because he is the only one who doesn't realize he is already in the sorting facility. I am led into a room of glass and steel. On the table sits a laptop, a biometric scanner, and a glass of champagne. Sit, Mina, Simone says, taking the seat across from me. Tell me about the Busan dock workers. Tell me about the cost of the rain. And then, tell me why I shouldn't just throw you back into the water once I have the numbers. The ledger registers the ultimate test. I have to lie to the woman who invented the lie. Because, madam, I say, picking up the champagne glass and looking at my reflection in the bubbles. If you kill me, the Shinhei debt doesn't disappear. It just moves to you. And I'm the only one who knows how to pay it. The sky, our silent weapon, is gone. Now it's just the ledger and the bank. And the water is still rising. Final philosophy. Betrayal is not a single act, it is a nested system. Every assistant has a boss, and every boss has a bank. To survive the exposure of your own double life, you must become the only thing the system cannot afford to lose. The ghost thought he was the investigator, but in a world of monsters, the only real investigation is the one that proves you are the most dangerous person in the room. The cabin of the Interceptor is a masterpiece of sterile aggression. There is no hand-stitched leather here, no gold-trimmed glassware. Madame Simone's world is built of brushed steel, reinforced plexiglass, and the low, predatory hum of satellite uplinks. We are no longer at 40,000 feet, but the pressure is terminal. The sea outside the portholes is a black void, and inside, the ledger in my mind is recalibrating for a new kind of warfare. The Busan dock workers, Simone prompts, her fingers steepled. She hasn't touched her champagne. She is waiting for the data. You mentioned a sequence, a mnemonic of blood. Start there. Elias stands by the door, his hand resting on the holster of a compact submachine gun. He isn't the assistant anymore. He is the bank's auditor, and he is waiting for me to fail. The ledger scans him. His posture is rigid, his breathing rhythmic. He is watching for a glitch in my memory, a sign that my behavioral math is a bluff. May 12, 2018, I begin, my voice a flat cinematic chime that cuts through the throb of the ship's engines. The rainfall in Busan was 42 millimeters. The cost of the delay was $1.2 million per hour. Your bank, Madame Simone, was the primary insurer for the cargo. When the chairman ordered the security team to clear the docks, he didn't just eliminate the union. He eliminated the liability. He saved you $14 million in payout. That was the first time the Shinhei and the bank became one body. Simone's eyes flicker. The ledger records the hit. She remembers the transaction. It was the moment she stopped being a creditor and became a co-conspirator. The second name, I continue, is Choi Dae-hyun, the chief engineer of the Sejong-ho, the captain's father. His death was the collateral required to hide the structural failure of the steel you financed. The third name is... Enough of the history lesson, Elias interrupts, his voice a cold rasp. The names don't unlock the Busan vault. The encryption is a 256-bit alphanumeric string. Give us the string, Mina, or we stop pretending you're a guest. The moral pressure in the room is a physical weight. I am caught between two monsters, the architect who financed the tragedy, and the ghost who wants to inherit the profit. The string is the names, Elias, I say, turning to him. The chairman was a poet of guilt. He used the dates of the deaths and the ID numbers of the victims as the seed for his generators. If you want the code, you have to hear the stories. You have to acknowledge the cost. Suddenly, the steel door of the cabin shudders. A sound like a frantic drum roll echoes through the bulkhead. Chef Sonny bursts in, pursued by a guard who looks genuinely terrified. Sonny is brandishing a long serrated bread knife and the copper sauté pan like a gladiator. He is covered in a fine white dust, truffle flour, and his bicycle helmet is now missing its visor. "The convection!" Sonny screams, ignoring the guns pointed at his chest. "Madam, your ship's galley is a tomb for the culinary arts. The humidity from the sea air has compromised the starch-to-fat ratio of the roux. I am trying to prepare the consommé double, but the vibrations from the engine are causing the clarification to separate. Elias, you, the critic, you must see this. This is not cooking. It is a struggle against the very atoms of the universe." "Sonny, get back to the galley," Simone says, her voice showing the first sign of genuine irritation. "I will not." Sonny stamps his foot, the bread knife vibrating in his hand. "The chairman is at the bottom of the ocean, the brother is a mannequin, and I am being asked to produce a Michelin-level broth on a vessel that moves like a washing machine. I demand a stabilized gimbal from my burners, or I will let the truffle soy emulsion curdle. And if it curdles, your guests will eat like prisoners. Is that the legacy of the bank? Mediocre soup." "The man is a lunatic," Elias growls, moving to grab him. "No," I say, stepping between them. I look at Sonny, whose eyes are wide with a specific, obsessive madness. He's the only one here who isn't lying. Sonny, the vibration. It's not just the engine. It's the depth charge. We're being followed. The ledger registers the shift in the room. The cold reality of our location has been compromised. Simone stands up, her face a mask of sudden, sharp focus. "Followed by whom?" she asks. "The pilot," I say. The silence that follows is heavier than the sea. "Tae-hee is dead," Elias says. "The nose cone hit the water first. I saw the impact." "You saw the splash, Elias. You didn't see the body," I reply. "The Aurealis had a pressurized escape pod in the cockpit. The chairman paid for it after the 2021 kidnapping attempt. Tae-hee didn't just crash the plane, he parked it. He's in a submersible, and he's using the acoustic signature of your interceptor to ghost you." The intercom on the wall chimes. It's the bridge. "Madam, we have a sonar contact. 300 meters aft. High speed, small profile. It's a Navy-grade drone sub. It's targeting our propulsion." The sky, the silent weapon, has followed us into the deep. Tae-hee is the ghost in the machine, a man who has lost everything and is now coming to collect the interest on his father's life. "He doesn't want the money," I say to Simone. "He wants the bank. He's going to sink this ship and the ledger with it." The choice of sides is no longer a matter of loyalty, it's a matter of buoyancy. "Elias," Simone commands, "get to the bridge. Deploy the acoustic decoys. If the sub locks on, fire the countermeasures." "And the girl?" Elias asks, his eyes on the silver drive on the table. "Bring her," Simone says. "If the ship goes down, she's the only thing I'm taking with me." We scramble out of the cabin, the ship lurching as the captain, our silent oceanic reaper, makes his first move. We move through the steel corridors, the sound of the sea roaring against the hull. In the galley, I see Sonny frantically duct taping his truffle bags to his bicycle helmet. "If we go down again," he mutters to himself, "I will be the only one with flavor. The sharks will eat well. They will appreciate the Perigord." We reach the bridge. The monitors are a swarm of green data points. One red dot is closing fast. "He's pinging us," the helmsman shouts. "Open a channel," I say. Simone looks at me, then nods. The audio crackles to life. "Tehi," I say into the console. "The ledger is here. The bank is here. If you sink this ship, you're just killing more names. You're becoming the chairman." "The chairman is dead, Mina." Tehi's voice comes through, sounding like it's being filtered through a mile of cold salt water. "The bank is just the chairman with a better lawyer. I am the end of the line. I am the variable cost that finally came due. The moral collapse is complete. Tehi isn't a hero, he's a black hole. He doesn't want justice, he wants an ending." "I have the codes, Tehi," I scream. "The Busan bullion. I can move it all to the Sejongho Memorial Fund. I can give your father the legacy he deserved." "My father deserved to live," Tehi replies. "The money is just dirt. Goodbye, Mina." The red dot on the screen merges with the green one. The explosion is a muffled, heavy thud. The interceptor's stern lifts out of the water. The lights flicker, and the absurd reality of Chef Sonny's voice echoes up the stairs. "The consommé! It has breached. We are all soup now." The ship begins to tilt. The new order is failing before it even began. I look at Elias. I look at Simone. "The choice is made," I say, my voice a cold whisper. I grab the silver drive from Elias's hand in the chaos of the hit and sprint toward the life pod. The ledger registers the final math. The only side left to choose is my own. Final philosophy. In a takeover, the most dangerous player is the one who has nothing left to lose. The bank thinks in assets, the Mafia thinks in blood, but the survivor thinks in physics. When the ship is sinking, the only thing that matters is who controls the air. Loyalty is a luxury for the dry. For the rest of us, there is only the water. The interceptor doesn't sink with the grace of the Aurealis. It dies in a violent mechanical spasm. Tehi's drone sub hit the propulsion housing with surgical malice, turning the ship's own kinetic energy into a weapon against itself. The deck of the bridge is now a 45-degree slide of shattered glass and screaming electronics. I am jammed into the corner of the helm, my fingers white-knuckled around the railing. The ledger in my mind is a frantic ticker tape of data points. The pitch of the ship is increasing at 2.4 degrees per minute. The air temperature is dropping as the hull breaches. And Madame Simone, the architect of this entire moral collapse, is pinned against the navigation console, her parchment-colored skin split open at the temple. "The drive," Simone gasps, reaching out a hand. "Mina, the bank. The bank cannot lose this capital. If the Shinhei assets vanish, the market in Incheon, it will trigger a contagion. Thousands will lose everything, not just criminals, the people." The ledger records the final manipulation. The architect is trying to use my conscience as a leash. She wants me to believe that her greed is the only thing holding the world together. "The people already lost everything the day you financed the chairman's reign, madam," I say, my voice steady even as the ship groans beneath us. Elias is already moving. He isn't looking at Simone. He is looking at me. Or rather, the silver drive I've tucked into my uniform. He is a predator who has realized the cage is open. He lunges across the slanted deck, his tactical boots treading on the very screens that once mapped his power. He doesn't reach for a gun. He reaches for my throat. "You're not leaving with that, Mina," Elias roars. "I've spent 5 years as a ghost in the chairman's shadow. I've breathed his cigar smoke and tasted his paranoia. I didn't do it to watch a hostess walk away with the prize." The ledger registers the assistant's collapse. Elias has moved from calculated risk to total desperation. He isn't working for Simone anymore. He is working for the version of himself he saw in the chairman's mirror. The struggle is clumsy and brutal. We are two shadows fighting in the red emergency light of a dying ship. He slams me against the glass of the bridge window. Behind my head, the yellow sea is a wall of black water rising to meet the deck. Suddenly, the bridge door is kicked open. Chef Sonny slides into the room, literally surfing on a large stainless steel industrial baking sheet. He is wearing 2 life jackets, one over his chest, one over his back, and his bicycle helmet is held together with silver duct tape. He is clutching a massive pressurized canister of nitrogen. "The thermal shock!" Sonny screams, his voice a frantic vibrato. "The seawater is flooding the dry stores. My truffles, they are being subjected to a rapid onset rot. I am using the nitrogen to flash freeze the moisture. It is the only way. Elias, get out of the way. You are blocking the ventilation path." "Sonny, get out," Elias snarls, trying to pin my arms. "I will not," Sonny bellows. He doesn't see the drama. He only sees the thermodynamics. He trips on a dislodged cable, and the nitrogen canister slips. The valve snaps off against the railing. A high-pressure jet of liquid nitrogen, minus 196 degrees Celsius, sprays across the bridge. It hits the navigation console between me and Elias. The steel freezes instantly, turning white and brittle. The air in the bridge becomes a cloud of frozen vapor. The absurd reality creates a lethal opportunity. I drive my knee into Elias's stomach and use the sudden cold to my advantage. I grab a heavy brass paperweight from the chart table, now a frozen lethal brick, and slam it into the frozen console. The metal shatters like glass. The ship yawns. The vibration of Taehee's sub returning for a second pass rattles the very marrow of my bones. "He's coming back," the helmsman screams, before leaping through the shattered bridge window into the dark water. I scramble toward the life pod, the small, egg-shaped escape vessel at the rear of the bridge. It is meant for the bank's executives. It only holds 2. Elias is on his knees, gasping for air, his hands frozen to the deck where the nitrogen sprayed. He looks up at me, the ghost finally seeing the reality of his own obsolescence. "Mina." I don't look back. I grab Sonny by the back of his life jackets and drag him toward the pod. "My truffles," Sonny wails, reaching for the bag he dropped. "They are in the nitrogen cloud. They are perfect. They are icons of flavor. Get in the pod, Sonny, or you're the first course for the sharks." I shove him through the hatch. Madame Simone is still slumped by the console. She looks at me as I prepare to seal the door. She doesn't beg. She simply watches me with a cold, terrifying curiosity. "You're becoming a beautiful monster, Mina," she whispers. "The bank will see you again." "The bank is closed," I say. I slam the hatch. The sky coup is the final irony. Taehee, the pilot, uses his sub to ram the interceptor one last time. The ship doesn't just sink, it folds. From the window of the pod, I see the bridge vanish into a swirl of white bubbles and red light. Then our pod is ejected. The sensation is a sickening jolt, a sudden, violent transition from the heavy gravity of the sinking ship to the weightless bobbing of a cork. We hit the water and skip, the internal gyroscope screaming. Silence. The pod stabilizes. I look out the small, thick porthole. The interceptor is gone. The Aurealis is gone. The sea is flat, black, and indifferent. In the corner of the pod, Chef Sonny is curled in a ball, cradling his duct-taped helmet. He is shivering, but his eyes are fixed on a small frozen truffle he managed to snag at the last second. "It's beautiful," Sonny whispers, his voice trembling. "The ice has preserved the crystalline structure of the oil. It's a tragedy that no one will ever taste it." I lean my head against the cold bulkhead. I reach into my pocket and pull out the silver drive. The ledger records the final count. Chairman Park, dead. Jun-ho, dead. Elias, dead. Madame Simone, lost. Captain Tae-hee, a shadow in the deep. The Magnificent Seven has been reduced to a hostess and a chef. But as the pod bobs in the darkness, I realize the silent weapon of the sky hasn't finished its work. The clouds above are parting, and a satellite-linked tablet in the pod's emergency kit begins to chime. A notification appears on the screen. Transfer pending, Vanguard Blue. Authorization required. The bank didn't die with Simone. The system is still waiting for a signature. The ledger is the only thing that matters. "Sonny," I say, staring at the screen. "Yes, Mina? Do you know how to make champagne at 40,000 feet? Sonny looks at me, his face pale in the blue light of the tablet. "The altitude ruins the bubbles, Mina. You know that. It's a fool's errand." "Then we'll have to find a new altitude," I say. The moral break is complete. I don't feel the weight of the names anymore. I only feel the math. The ledger is no longer a record of the past. It is the blueprint for the future. Final philosophy. A coup is not a change of heart. It is a change of hands. When the kings and the ghosts have finished killing each other, the world belongs to the one who was standing in the corner, taking notes. Power is a vacuum that hates to be empty, and the only thing more dangerous than a man with a gun is a woman who remembers exactly why he shouldn't have been trusted with it. The life pod is a claustrophobic womb of survival, smelling of ozone, recycled air, and the faint, earthy scent of Sonny's nitrogen-scorched truffles. The pod bobs on the surface of the yellow sea like a discarded pill, indifferent to the fact that it contains the only living witness to the Shinhei's extinction. Outside, the storm has passed, leaving a terrifyingly calm horizon of black glass. But inside, the digital storm is just beginning. The tablet in the emergency kit, linked to the bank's orbital network, is a glowing window into the new order. The notification for Vanguard Blue pulses with a rhythmic green light. It is a heartbeat. The market is waiting for a signature to decide whether the Shinhei's billions will become a foundation or a funeral pyre. "Mina," Sonny whispers, his voice sounding small in the metallic hollow of the pod. He stopped shivering. He is staring at the tablet screen as if it were a high-speed blender he doesn't know how to turn off. The light. It's the same color as the mold on the bad Roquefort. It looks like decay. "It's not decay, Sonny," I say, my fingers hovering over the glass. "It's gravity." The ledger in my mind is running the final calculus. The fall of kings isn't just about the chairman and his brother at the bottom of the ocean. It's about the vacancy they left behind. Madame Simone's system, the bank, is a machine that requires a technician. If I don't sign, the contagion she feared will spread, and the names in the ledger will be joined by thousands more. The employees, the dock workers, the families who live in the shadows of the Shinhei's towers. But if I do sign, I become the architect. I become the woman who validates the variable costs. Suddenly, a heavy metallic clunk echoes through the hull of the pod. The pod lurches. We aren't being rescued, we are being snagged. Through the small, thick porthole, a dark shape rises from the water like a leviathan. It is the drone sub. Captain Tae-hee. He's still here, Sonny gasps, his hand flying to his bicycle helmet. The pilot! He's come to garnish us. Mina, tell him the menu is closed. Tell him we've run out of everything. A magnetic grapple has locked onto our pod. The mechanical hum vibrates through the seat straps, a low-frequency growl that feels like it's trying to shake the ledger out of my teeth. Then, the audio patch on the tablet crackles to life. Mina, Taehee's voice is a ghost's whisper, stripped of the rage that fueled the crash. He sounds hollowed out. A man who has achieved his revenge, only to find that it tastes like salt water. The pod is rigged with a remote scuttle charge. I can see your tablet. I can see the Vanguard transfer window. If you sign that document, I pull the trigger. We all go to the silt together. The ledger registers the cold reality. Tae-hee isn't looking for the money. He is looking for a clean slate. He wants the Shinhei name and anyone who holds its power to stay in the dark. Tae-hee, listen to me, I say, leaning into the mic. The bank isn't the chairman. If I don't authorize the transfer, the money doesn't go to the victims. It stays in the void. It becomes unclaimed capital, and the bank will just use it to finance the next chairman. The cycle won't stop because you sank a plane. The cycle stops when the memory stops, Tae-hee replies. You are the ledger, Mina. You are the last record. If you die, the debt dies with you. The moral pressure is a physical grip on my throat. I look at Sonny. He is holding the frozen truffle between two fingers, his face a mask of strange culinary dignity. Mina, Sonny says, his voice unexpectedly steady. On the Aurealis, when I was in the galley, I overheard the chairman talking to Elias. He said that a great dish isn't defined by what you add, but by what you leave on the plate. He was talking about people, wasn't he? Yes, Sonny, he was. Then Tae-hee is right, Sonny says, looking at the nitrogen-white truffle. The Shinhei is a bad recipe. It's bitter. It's over-seasoned with blood. If you sign that screen, you're just trying to fix a burnt sauce. Sometimes, you have to throw the whole pot away. The absurd reality hits me like a lightning strike. Sonny, the man obsessed with the surface of things, has seen the center. I look at the tablet. Authorization required. Finalize liquidation of Shinhei Syndicate assets. Y/N. If I select yes, I am the queen of the ruin. I move the bullion. I pay the bank. I survive in a penthouse in Macau, haunted by the ledger. If I select no, I remain in this pod until Tae-hee decides to let go of the trigger, or until the bank finds us. But there is a third option. A double agent move the ledger only just calculated. Tae-hee, I say, I'm not signing it over to the bank. And I'm not letting it sit in the void. What are you doing, Mina? Tae-hee's voice is sharp with suspicion. I'm changing the recipient, I say, my fingers moving across the screen with the speed of a memory-perfect observer. The Shinhei bylaws allow for a charitable dissolution in the event of total executive failure. I'm rerouting the Vanguard Blue funds into a public trust for the Sejong-ho families and the Busan dockworkers' pension. The bank can't stop it once it's in the public ledger. It becomes political capital. If Simone tries to take it back, she'll be exposed as the one who financed the ferry's structural failure. Silence from the sub. The ledger records the shift. Taehee's heart rate, measured through the rhythm of his breathing over the comms, slows down. He is processing the math. "And you?" Taehee asks. "What do you get?" "I get to be the girl who served the champagne," I say. "And nothing else." I hit the command. Transfer initiated. Recipient: Maritime Workers Public Trust. Amount: $4.2 billion. Status: irreversible. The tablet screen turns a calm, neutral white. The heartbeat is gone. The Shinhei Syndicate, as a financial entity, has been vaporized. The kings haven't just fallen. Their kingdom has been returned to the people they robbed to build it. The magnetic grapple releases with a dull thud. The drone sub begins to sink away, a shadow returning to the deep. Taehee doesn't say goodbye. He just vanishes. The pod bobs quietly in the dark. "Mina?" Sunny asks, peering through the window. "Does this mean we're poor now?" "It means we're irrelevant, Sunny, which is the safest thing to be in Korea right now." "Irrelevant?" Sunny looks horrified. "I am a Michelin-starred chef. I cannot be irrelevant. I have a brand. I have a..." He stops. He looks at his cracked bicycle helmet. He looks at the frozen truffle. He sighs, a long, deflating sound. "I suppose I could open a small shop in Incheon," Sunny mutters. "Something modest, simple flavors, no phones, no nitrogen, just salt and fire." "That sounds like a good recipe, Sunny." The morning sun begins to break over the horizon, turning the yellow sea into a sheet of gold. The fall of kings is over. The sky is empty. The water is still. But as I look at the white screen of the tablet, the ledger in my mind records one final micro-expression I missed before. A small, secondary notification appears at the bottom of the screen. Encrypted message received. Origin unknown. I tap it. The bank never closes, Mina. It just changes its hours. "See you at brunch." The moral collapse isn't a destination, it's a cycle. I might have emptied the vault, but I still have the memory. And in a world of ghosts, that is the only currency that never devalues. "Sunny," I say, watching a rescue helicopter appear as a small dot in the distance. "Yes, Mina?" "Keep that truffle. We might need to trade it for a new identity." Final philosophy. Power is a ghost that haunts the ledger of our choices. You can sink the plane, you can burn the money, and you can kill the kings. But the system is built into the air we breathe. To truly win, you must be willing to become a ghost yourself, to exist in the spaces between the lines, where the bank can't find you, and the memory of your sins is the only thing you have left to serve. The rescue helicopter is a loud, mechanical insect hovering over the ruins of an empire. As the winch lowers, I realize the sky throne was never about the jet or the obsidian desk. It was about the perspective, the ability to look down and see people as numbers. Now, as I dangle between the sky and the sea, I am a number again. But I am the only one who knows the value of the zero. 3 days later, Incheon. The sorting facility is not a dungeon. It is a sterile, high-ceilinged office in a glass tower overlooking the harbor. The air is filtered. climate controlled to exactly 21 degrees. It smells of ozone and expensive stationery. I am sitting across from a man in a charcoal suit who looks like Elias, but younger, sharper, and devoid of the ghost's hunger. He is a pure functionary. "The audit is complete, Mademoiselle Mina," he says, tapping a digital file. "The Shinhei assets have been successfully diverted to the Maritime Trust. The bank has accepted the loss as a tax write-off. Your cooperation has been noted." "And the others?" I ask. "Chairman Park is officially missing at sea. Junho is a casualty of a private aviation accident. Captain Taehee's record has been scrubbed. As far as the world is concerned, the Aurealis was a tragic mechanical failure." He looks up, his eyes as blank as a fresh spreadsheet. "You are free to go. Your severance package has been deposited into a clean account. It is enough for a quiet life. A very quiet life." I stand up. The ledger in my mind records his heart rate, 62. He is bored. He thinks the story is over. He thinks he's looking at a survivor, when he's actually looking at the new architect. I walk out of the tower and into the humid heat of the Incheon docks. The absurd reality of the world is waiting for me. At the end of a pier, nestled between a shipping container and a bait shop, is a small silver food truck. It has no name, only a logo, a bicycle helmet crossed with a whisk. "It is lacking boldness," a voice screams from inside the truck. I step up to the window. Chef Sunny is there, wearing a pristine white coat and a brand new matte black bicycle helmet. He is currently lecturing a confused-looking dock worker about the aromatic integrity of a ham and cheese toastie. "Sunny," I say. He freezes. He looks at me, and for a second, the madness in his eyes softens into something like relief. He reaches under the counter and pulls out a small white porcelain plate. On it sits a single perfectly toasted piece of bread, topped with a thin slice of the nitrogen-frozen truffle and a drizzle of honey. "I call it the 40,000-foot descent," Sunny whispers. "It's salty, it's cold, and it tastes like a mistake you'd make twice. It's the best thing I've ever made." I take a bite. The flavor is a sensory overload, a memory of the sky, the salt, and the blood. It is perfect. "What are you going to do, Mina?" Sunny asks, leaning on the counter. "The dock workers, they got the money. They think it's a miracle. They don't know it was a hostess. I'm going to do what I've always done, Sunny. I'm going to keep the ledger." I turn and look at the black water of the harbor. My phone vibrates in my pocket. A new message. No sender. "The table is set in Zurich, 2 p.m. Don't forget the Krug." The bank never closes. Madame Simone didn't drown. She just went below the surface to wait for the next variable cost to arise. And she knows that I am the only one who can navigate the new world of the Shinhei's debt. I am the invisible queen. I have no throne, no jet, and no name. But I have the memory of every breath Chairman Park ever took, and every lie Junho ever told. I am the data that the system needs to breathe. I walk away from the food truck, blending into the crowd of workers and travelers. I am just another woman in a simple coat, disappearing into the grey light of the morning. But as I walk, my mind is already calculating the heart rates of the people around me. The takeover isn't finished. It has just moved to a different altitude. Final philosophy. Power is a circle, not a ladder. You think you are climbing, but you are only moving toward the point where you started. The chairman thought he was a lion. The brother thought he was a machine. The pilot thought he was justice. They were all just variables in a larger equation. To truly rule, you must realize that the throne is a trap, and the only real power is the ability to walk away from it, while keeping the keys in your pocket. The ledger is never closed. It is just waiting for the next entry. The end.